Thanks so much. And by the time we're done today, it is our intent to make sure that you have at least 5 new things that you can use. 5. And that's my goal. But what I also want to do is I also want to give you an opportunity. I want to help solve problems because that's what we're all about here. And frankly, if you have some specific meeting pain or suffering, go ahead and drop it into the chat interface or put it into the Q&A interface, and we'll pick it up as we go along. But I do want to assure you that this is about you. Every meeting's about you. In fact, I'll be your psychic friend right now. I really will. Hold it. Oh, there. I just got the wavelength. When does this thing end? One of you was thinking that. I'm not sure which one, but one of you was thinking that. And frankly, it's about 5 past the hour right now, and we're supposed to go for about an hour and 15 minutes or so, hour and 20 minutes. So I'll be wrapping up my comments at between 12:15 and 12:20. Then you'll have a few minutes for Q&A, and then we'll wrap things up all together. So that's the game plan. That's where we're going to be going. So just so you know, and I just made a little meeting magic. The reason I did that, or how I did that, was I told you between 12:10 and 12:15, I'll be wrapping things up, and then we'll go to Q&A. Now, for many of you, that's comfort. It is. It's a solace. It actually makes you go, okay, I can survive anything for an hour for a PDU. And there's a joy in that. And yet many meetings we'll go to those meetings, and we won't have that same sense. We'll know the person who's running the meeting doesn't really know when it's going to end. And as a result, we go into a meeting knowing it's scheduled as an hour or a 2-hour meeting or whatever, and we'll get in there, and you'll be looking at your watch, and you'll go, well, it's been an hour and 20 minutes. It's been an hour and a half. It's been an hour and 45 minutes, and I've really, really got to take care of my biological needs. No! Crap, it's almost 2 hours. And then the person running the meeting goes, I know we should be wrapping things up about now, but before we take a break, before we call it a day, I would like to touch on one more thing. And you're like, no, please, anything but that. Well, that's our mission today, is to put little meeting magic into your life and to afford you at least 5 specific tricks that you can do. Also, you'll note where I left the slide hanging at the very, very beginning of all this. You'll note I left it on this, and I did not leave it on this. Traditionally, when we start a meeting, this is what's hanging up on the front screen. If you happen to use PowerPoint or one of the other presentation tools, you'll actually have just the title of the meeting hanging up in front and just staring you in the face. And instead, I started, and the first slide in my deck was this one. The reason. And that's because many of you are, dare I say, tempted, if not urged, to multitask. I know it's a shock, but you are. You're very, very tempted to multitask during all of this. And well, golly, if you're going to be multitasking, I want you multitasking on my stuff. And so as a result, I started the meeting with something that was basically food for thought, something you could ponder while I was talking away. It's a beautiful way to make this happen. And it's also an opportunity to draw you in and to make you an active participant. If you have some specific meeting pain or grief, just make sure that at some point during the course of our conversation, you, over on the right-hand screen, you go ahead and you put it into the chat interface or drop it into the Q&A. So, yes, there you go. Also, I'd like to ask you a favor, if I might. I told you I'm going to give you at least 5 tricks, 5 little tricks. Specifically, that's what I'd like to find out from you is as I give you little tricks of the trade, as you spot me doing certain things during our meeting together, what I'd love you to do is to pass those along in the chat or the Q&A interface. If you happen to notice, Carl, I couldn't help but notice you did this. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I'd like to just acknowledge you for actually picking up one of the tricks, because it is all about the tricks and making meetings magic. Interesting question or point got brought up. The pain point was stuff we came in to discuss, and hours later, we're still talking about things we never agreed to. And this is all about meeting control. We're going to talk about that a little later on, so I'm going to kind of hold that one in abeyance, but I did want to acknowledge that I caught the pain point that you identified, and that we are going to be talking about those. The specifics that I'm gunning for are here. Behaviors, tricks, gimmicks, strategies, game plans, anything to bring a little serious magic into your next meeting. And that goes to a point, coffee. That you have or allow coffee in your meeting. You actually have food. And food's kind of an interesting thing, and it's one of the things that we're going to talk about today as well. Should you or should you not bring food or make food a feature of your meeting? And we're going to talk about that in terms of motivation. Oddly enough, seems like a strange place to go when it comes to coffee, but we'll go there. Also, you'll notice the other thing, the other promise that I'm making you down here. You're going to remember the names of at least 4 other people in our virtual room. I have trouble remembering the people we work with sometimes. Sometimes you'll be in a meeting and somebody will walk in, I want you to meet Will. He's new on the team. It's really nice to meet you. And it's Will. And frankly, there was a guy who just popped into our meeting, Drew. Hi, Drew. Yeah. It's new Drew. I won't forget Drew because he's new. It's easy to remember, new Drew. There are a bunch of other people in the meeting. And oddly enough, there are ways to remember them. One is the little rhyming scheme. New Drew would be one of them. The other one is simply to find some little rhythm kind of thing. Mary Thomas is on the call today. Hi, Mary. Glad to have you with us. Yeah, Mary Thomas. And Merry Christmas, Mary Thomas. And that's, frankly, how I'm going to remember her name. It'll be one of those things. I know it's not Christmas. And I know it sounds like a relative of mine because got a lot of Thomases in my family. So, Mary Thomas, Merry Christmas. Good to have you with us. Also, we have, I've got to tell you, there's one person on the call, and kudos to you. Your parents get bonus points for naming you this. It's Ganesh is on the call today. And Ganesh, for those of you who don't know who Ganesh is, and not our Ganesh, but the real Ganesh, and I presume it's whom Ganesh is named for, it's actually the Hindu deity with the elephantine face. Got kind of an elephant's trunk and everything else. But the cool thing about Ganesh as one of the Hindu deities is Ganesh is known as the remover of obstacles. I love that. Ganesh on our call, project manager, is the remover of obstacles, and it's like, talk about getting named just the perfect thing by your parents. That's a gift. Knowing the roots of people is sometimes a way to actually remember their names. If you know where the names come from and how they were drawn out, one of the cool things is you have the ability then to actually nudge yourself, and it's like, Ganesh. And yes, you might, think of Ganesh as the Hindu deity with the elephant face, but you may also remember, Ganesh, the remover of obstacles. I'm big on, when I saw your name pop up on the roster, Ganesh, I can't tell you how thrilled I was. I thought that was just perfect for our little meeting here today. And there are a variety of different ways that we can actually use to remember names. For those of you who go into a meeting, though, and cannot, no mnemonic on earth, no little memory trick on the planet is going to get you to remember people's names. Let me see if it's a live meeting, Post-it notes. Post-it notes are one of God's great gifts to really are. And Post-it notes, what I will do in a meeting where I've got a lot of people coming in and I'm expected to know a lot of names, on each one to his or her own Post-it, I will write one name.